Hello there, good evening and a warm welcome to all of you here on the news tonight here on Sabha TV, where we get you the day's top stories, what's developing at the moment. Of course, we'll get you that crucial details of what's coming out of the joint press conference between Modi and Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper, and lots more that's making news. I'm Tracy Shilshi. Let's head straight to the headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Canadian Premier Stephen Harper witnessed the signing of the civil nuclear deal and agreements on skill development. Both leaders assure stronger ties at a joint press conference. 6 Janata Parivar parties merge under a single umbrella led by Mulayam Singh Yadav. The new formation will face its first electoral test in Bihar. Shiv Sena stuns Congress in the Maharashtra by-election. Former State Chief Minister Narayan Rane loses by 20,000 votes in Bandra East constituency. Wholesale prices fall at faster than expected rate in March. The WPI records minus 2.33% in the 5th straight fall. And China's economic growth slows down to a 6-year low of 7% in the first quarter of 2015. The IMF predicts slowdown to continue even in 2016. The top national story: after months of discussions and deliberations, the merger of 6 parties to form the Janata Parivar was announced today. The new political front will be headed by Samajwadi Party Supremo Mulayam Singh Yadav, who will also head the party's parliamentary panel. The aim of the new outfit is to take on a resurgent BJP, especially in Bihar, where polls are due later this year.
The much talked about Janata Parivar, a merger of 6 parties, is now a reality. A formal announcement on the merger was made after the final round of talks between the heads of all parties.
जब ये सब एक हो जाते हैं तो देश में राज नहीं का होता है। आपने देख लिया, जब हम लोग बैठेंगे, जब एक हुए तो राज नहीं का हुआ, राज होगा, देश में राज नहीं का होगा।
The Grand Alliance, which includes JDU, RJD, JDS, Samajwadi Party, INLD and the SJP, will be headed by SP Supremo Mulayam Singh Yadav. The name, symbol, flag and other details of the party will be announced in a few days.
सर्वसम्मति से तय हुआ कि नए दल के अध्यक्ष माननीय श्री मुलायम सिंह यादव जी होंगे और वे ही पार्लियामेंट्री संसदीय समिति के अध्यक्ष होंगे.
The formation of the new political front comes ahead of the crucial Bihar Assembly polls, which will be the first test of the Grand Alliance. The merger is also being seen as an attempt to counter the BJP after the latter's massive victory in the 2014 Lok Sabha polls and its successes thereafter.
अब एक मजबूत दल के रूप में यह नया दल उभरेगा और देश की राजनीति को दिशा देगा.
हम लोग एक हो गए और किसी के मन में कोई ईगो प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, न नीतीश जी के मन में, न लालू यादव के मन में, न हमारी जनता के मन में. और वहीं से बिहार के चुनाव पर देश का निगाह टिका हुआ है. सब इनको हम बाहर के झाड़ू से हम लोग फेंक देंगे. आज देश में समता मूलक समाज, समाजवादी समाज बनाएंगे, सभी फूले फैले. इस तरह का हम लोगों ने ये विचार रखा है.
BJP leaders, however, mocked the merger, saying it wouldn't have any impact on the Bihar polls.
It is a confederation of losers, and it's only because of the losses that they had incurred during the 2014 elections that they are left with no other option than to come together.
Notably, the announcement of the big merger was made just a day after BJP President Amit Shah sounded the poll bugle in Bihar. He also mocked the alliance, saying 0 plus 0 remains a 0, and asserted that nobody could prevent the Saffron party from coming to power in the state. Bureau Report, Rajya TV.
And more political activity. The results for 5 key assembly by-polls were out today. Shiv Sena stunned the Congress in the Maharashtra's Bandra East seat, where former Chief Minister Narayan Rane lost by close to 20,000 votes. In Punjab, the ruling SAD wrestled the Dhuri seat from Congress. However, there was some good news for Congress in Uttarakhand, where they won the Bhagwanpur by-poll.
Former Maharashtra Chief Minister Narayan Rane lost to ruling Shiv Sena's Trupti Sawant in the Bandra East Assembly by-poll on Wednesday. This was his second consecutive defeat in 6 months after he lost last year's assembly polls from his home turf Kankavali. He lost by a margin of 19,008 votes. Shiv Sena workers celebrated at Sena Chief Uddhav Thackeray's residence Matoshri, which is part of the Bandra East constituency.
बेरामपाडा आणि भारतनगरमध्ये सुद्धा काही मुस्लिम समाजाने सुद्धा शिवसेनेला मतदान केलेलं आहे. याचाच अर्थ असा की जे एक वोट बँकेचं राजकारण चालतं, त्यांना भडकवण्याचं राजकारण चालतं, त्याला एक चांगलं उत्तर यावेळेला मुसलमानांकडनं, मुस्लिम समाजाकडनं मिळालेलं आहे. नको त्याच्या मागे लागण्यापेक्षा.
Meanwhile, NCP retained the Tasgaon Assembly constituency of Sangli district. NCP leader R.R. Patil's wife Sumantai Patil won the by-poll by over 1 lakh votes. In Punjab, ruling Shiromani Akali Dal wrested the Dhuri seat from Congress. Former Minister G.S. Longowal defeated S.P. Singh, son of former Chief Minister Surjit Singh Barnala. In Uttarakhand, ruling Congress won the by-poll in Bhagwanpur, helping them garner majority mark in the assembly on its own. Congress has now secured 36 seats in the 70-member house. In UP, Samajwadi Party retained the Charkari seat where Urmila Rajput defeated BJP rival Akhil Rajput by over 45,000 votes. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
In other news, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his Canadian counterpart Stephen Harper held bilateral talks in Ottawa in Canada a short while back. The two sides signed a number of key agreements, including in the areas of science, defence, space, civil aviation and skill development. Saying that Canada had the potential to be a key partner in every area of India's national development, the Prime Minister called on Canada to establish a new framework for economic partnership. The two sides have agreed on the procurement of uranium from Canada for India's civilian nuclear power plants.
On procurement of uranium from Canada for our civilian nuclear power plants launches a new era of bilateral cooperation. It also reflects a new level of mutual trust and confidence. Further, it will contribute to India's efforts to power its growth with clean energy.
This is, of course, a growing relationship. Our two-way merchandise trade is today worth nearly $6.5 billion. However, both Prime Minister Modi and I believe it could be worth many billions more. The untapped trade potential between our countries is enormous. Canada has what India needs, and vice versa. To that end, I'm pleased to note that Cameco will supply Saskatchewan uranium for India's atomic energy program over the next 5 years, and I want.
In Canada, on a 3-day tour, Modi will not just meet the country's political leadership, but also business leaders and the large Indian community settled there. Here's what's on his agenda.
A very hopeful Indian community gathered outside the hotel where Prime Minister Narendra Modi is staying in Ottawa. Marking the first standalone bilateral visit to Canada in 42 years, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's focus is to further ties through cooperation in energy, including civil nuclear, and attracting trade and technology for India's development. With this focus, the Prime Minister invited Canada to partner India by sharing technology and pumping in investments. The Prime Minister is scheduled to address Canadian business leaders on Thursday.
Unfortunately, the investment from Canada to India are much below potential. This is only approximately about $5 billion, and therefore Prime Minister will be meeting leading Canadian pension funds in Toronto. These pension funds have a corpus of more than 200 billion, and our effort is to ease their investment opportunities in India.
The Prime Minister will also address the Indian community in Toronto. The public welcome in the city is built to be on the lines of his famous Madison Square address in New York last year. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
All right, so let's find out what India and Canada can gain out of this visit. We've got former Ambassador Suresh K. Goyal joining us in studio this evening. Mr. Goyal, thanks so much for joining us here. Give us a sense really of the importance of Modi's trip at this point, because, you know, there is a lot of criticism saying that the both countries always assure good ties, good bilateral ties, but on paper there's rarely, anything that is being progressed for the past few decades. And also just a $6 billion bilateral trade relationship. Is that really enough? Is there hope that this time things are actually going to move faster?
Well, if you look at the developments in India-Canada relationship, not just over the last 1 year, but if we see the history over the last perhaps a decade, I would say since we had the economic reforms in the country, and where the Indian community became the symbol of a kind of a resurgent India. We have witnessed, if not substantively, but a change of the complexion of relationship between India and Canada. For instance, on issues of strategic importance to us, on security issues, on economic issues, the statements coming from Canada were no longer so strident as they used to be, I would say in 90s or earlier. So there was already a kind of a change in the complexion of the relationship. The current visit, which is taking place after 42 years, and if you want to put that in perspective, that means since 73, when Canada actually broke off the nuclear supplies to India over our peaceful nuclear explosions, there has been no high-level visit from India to Canada. Now, after 42 years, there is a change in the complexion. There is a recognition that yes, a partnership between India and Canada is essential and important from the point of view of both the leaders. I think you should, and therefore in terms of that, the agreement, and please see that this is actually, I think one of the first agreements where there is a categorical undertaking on supply of enriched uranium to India. And therefore it is very, very important to us. For 5 years.
Yes, that's right.
I would, sorry.
Please go ahead,
I would add on to that, that there is a lot of, in addition to the desire for stronger bilateral relations, there is a lot of domestic politics involved in this. Stephen Harper, the Prime Minister in Canada, himself is very, very close to diaspora. And diaspora has a very strong vote now in the Canadian political system. Therefore, a closeness with India, particularly a leader of the kind Narendra Modi, who has a great sway on the Indian voters in Canada, is important to him.
That's what I was coming to exactly. You know, apart from the political implications of this, apart from the trade implications, there's also this personality thing that, you know, always follows Modi, the kind of reception that he got even in Ottawa, and we wonder what's going to happen in Toronto.
Absolutely.
But, the Indian, Canadian business community there, how crucial is it going to be for Modi to tap into that, and also how Canada is going to be seeing whether Modi can actually make sure things are going both ways?
I think the business community anywhere in the world is important to India. We are looking for investments. We are looking for people to increase their business with India in the sense of success of our own economic reforms and our own infrastructure program. It is very, very important. But I think the business opportunity is dependent more on the kind of economic reforms and the opportunities we provide within India. And I think with the coming of Modi, there is a general feeling that we are more business savvy, we are more business friendly, and that we are going to provide more facilities for the foreign companies to come and invest in India. That's a message he gave in Germany, that's a message he gave in France, that's a message he's given in Canada. So I think uniformly wherever Narendra Modi has gone, the message has been that India is open now to business deals.
He's making sure to say that it is a changed country.
Absolutely.
Tax regimes are getting more transparent, getting easier, of course, for you to do business with us.
Absolutely.
So let's hope and, see how things go on this front, at least as far as Canada is concerned.
And I think in this particular case, the diaspora in Canada will play an important role.
All
because
right.
most of the diaspora in Canada is actually in the business community
All right.
and professionals.
All right, we'll leave it there for now. Mr. Goyal, thanks so much for joining us, giving us a sense of really what we can expect out of this trip of Mr. Modi in Canada. Meanwhile, let's head back home and get you more news. And the Supreme Court could not hear a plea questioning the validity of the National Judicial Appointments Commission Act because a judge recused himself from the case. Justice Anil Dave was the head judge of the 5-member bench that was supposed to hear that plea. His decision came after senior lawyer Fali S. Nariman raised objection that Justice Dave became part of the commission whose validity has been challenged. Chief Justice of India H.L. Dattu is likely to constitute a new bench now to hear the case.
The Constitution bench, after briefly hearing the matters, said that they will reconstitute a fresh bench and these matters will be put up in due course after some time. Few councils raised certain objections that some of the judges who will be presiding in the bench, they will be a part of NJAC also, and therefore the senior most judge perhaps thought it fit to recuse himself from the proceedings, and therefore a fresh bench will be reconstituted.
In other news, the government panel is likely to decide soon on whether to declassify more files on Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. The panel was formed amid a row over the revelations that Netaji's family was spied on for many years. The government today constituted the 3-member committee of top bureaucrats to go into the implications of the Official Secrets Act and the RTI law. An inter-ministerial committee headed by the Cabinet Secretary will review the Official Secret Act in connection with the nearly 90 files related to Netaji. The rules say that files can be declassified automatically after 30 years. However, the centre maintains that declassification of the files could have adverse effects on diplomatic relations with some nations. The first meeting of the panel will take place on Thursday.
So, Narendra Modi ji definitely is an admirer of Subhash Chandra Bose, but he has also realized, as the people of India and people living across the globe who are admirers of Subhash Bose, they want to know the truth. So he has formed this committee, a very high-level committee to look into the matter. I think this is a positive step in the right direction.
And now let's get you some more updates from across the country in Nationwide. Oil companies reduced petrol and diesel prices today. Petrol price was cut by 80 paise a litre, while diesel will see a reduction of 1 rupee 30 paise after the revision. The new rates will be applicable from midnight today. The Andhra Pradesh police has registered a case of murder in the Chittoor encounter case. The move comes after the Hyderabad High Court had asked the government to file the case over allegations of fake encounter. The state government said in its process of constituting a special investigation team to probe the case, 20 people, all alleged to be Red Sanders smugglers, were killed in a police encounter last week. The Delhi police has found that at least 8 documents recovered from the suspects in the corporate espionage case are classified. With this evidence, the Delhi police can now slam the Official Secrets Act on the suspects for leaking and selling documents pertaining to the Ministry of Petroleum, Oil and Natural Gas. 16 people have been arrested so far in connection with 2 separate FIRs lodged by the CBI. The CBI today told the special court that former Telecom Minister A. Rajya had misled the nation and then Prime Minister Manmohan Singh on policy matters regarding the allocation of 2G spectrum. The final arguments in the case would be continued on the 25th of May, the next date of hearing. Time for a quick break here. Up next, international news, and the UN Security Council adopts arms embargo resolution on Yemen.
This special report will try and find out what the battle of supremacy in the Indian Ocean really is. Chinese threat in the Indian Ocean. India too strengthening its position in the region. Both nations jostling for control of crucial maritime routes. India back with a bang in the water body named after it. Watch our special report, Indian Ocean, Battle for Supremacy, only on Rajya Sabha television.
welcome back. You're watching the news tonight. Let's get you some financial news now. And deflation in wholesale prices persisted for the 5th month in a row. The wholesale price index fell to a record low of minus 2.33% in March, mainly on cheaper food and fuel products and manufacturing items. Inflation in the food articles category stood at 6.31%, while for fuel and power it was minus 12.56%. Deflation was also visible in the manufactured products category, where the rate of the price rise dropped to a record low of minus 1.19%. Industrial output growth jumped to a 9-month high of 5% in February. Inflation measured on the wholesale price index was at minus 2% in February, minus 0.39% in January, and minus 5% in December. It was a 6% in March 2014. The decline in inflation and a positive industrial output data could give room to the Reserve Bank to consider a cut in interest rates, as the industry has been demanding. Meanwhile, the Minister of State for Finance, Jayant Sinha, today backed full capital account convertibility of the rupee. Sinha asserted that India must incorporate it in its policies if it has to become a top global economy.
A week after the RBI indicated a move towards full rupee convertibility, the government on Wednesday underscored the need to remove restrictions coming in its way.
If we are going to be one of the top 3 or 4 economies in the world, we have to make it possible for our capital markets to be broader, deeper and more liquid. And for that to happen, capital account convertibility also becomes important.
The debate on convertibility on capital account has been raging for some time now. Capital account convertibility refers to the freedom to convert local financial assets into foreign financial assets and vice versa. Currently, India restricts foreign capital flows, and the rupee isn't fully convertible on capital account. Analysts feel it was this RBI policy of partial capital control that helped India survive the currency meltdown in 1997-98, at a time when many South Asian economies with full capital convertibility were hit badly.
It will be convertible insofar as resident Indians are concerned. That means you and me could take away anything, any asset, convert our rupee assets into foreign exchange and or into any world currency and take it away.
Ever since liberalization started in 1991, the government and RBI have been progressively lifting curbs on capital flows. But given the current volatile global environment, full capital account convertibility must come with enough safeguards. Kriti Mishra's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
China recorded its lowest growth rate in 6 years at 7% today. This came in the backdrop of the International Monetary Fund's prediction that Beijing will see its economy slowing down over the next 1 year. IMF also predicted that India is likely to outpace China in growth by 2016.
China's economic growth has slowed down to a 6-year low of 7% in the first quarter of 2015. Weakness in key sectors suggested the world's second largest economy was still losing momentum. This intensifies China's struggle to find the right policy mix to shore up activity.
这个短期内这个国内国际调整的格局以及国内这样一个经济条件的尤其是这种调整的格局。
On Tuesday, the International Monetary Fund had predicted that China's growth rate will slow down to 6.3% by the end of this financial year. According to the IMF, China has sharply pulled back after a rapid rise in credit and investment fed a real estate bubble, leaving a sluggish housing market.
I don't think it's a natural part. I think China is facing 2 challenges. The first one is the one you described, which is a slowdown in underlying growth, because it's changing the composition of production between consumption and investment, between manufacturing and services. That has to happen. This is happening. This is very healthy. On top of this, you have what was a housing boom and is no longer a housing boom. And if it turns into a housing bust, then it slows down the economy too much.
The IMF expects the world economy to be moderate and uneven in 2015. The global economy is projected to expand by 3.5% this year. The IMF has also projected that India will grow at a rate of 7%, outpacing China by the end of the financial year in 2016. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
In other international news, Cuba today hailed US President Barack Obama's decision to remove the country from the US list of state sponsors of terrorism. The decision clears the main obstacle to restoring diplomatic relations between the two nations. But a US trade embargo against Cuba remains a sticking point.
The United States has taken a major step towards restoring ties with Cuba. After enough assurances from Cuba and a very careful review, the United States has decided to remove the country from the list of state sponsors of terrorism. US President Barack Obama said the government of Cuba had not provided any support for international terrorism over the past 6 months. Cuban Foreign Secretary welcomed the move as a fair decision, saying it should never have been part of the list in the first place. Cubans are hopeful that the improved ties will eventually lead to the lifting of the trade embargo, bringing in more foreign investments. It also paves the way for reopening of embassies.
Me parece una buena intención de parte del presidente, buena de su parte y pienso que Cuba no debería estar en esa lista, ya que Cuba no patrocina el terrorismo, al contrario, ayuda a muchos países.
Muy bien, me parece muy bien para nuestro país, porque bueno, todo va a ser mejor ahora para nosotros, ¿no?
But the decision on the trade embargo has to go through the Congress first. The US Congress has 45 days to consider the president's decision before it can take effect. Many Republicans have been critical of the announcement.
Well, the decision made by the White House today is a terrible one, but not surprising, unfortunately. Cuba is a state sponsor of terrorism, and I think sends a chilling message to our enemies abroad that this White House is no longer serious about calling terrorism by its proper name.
The United States and Cuba had announced a historic thaw in ties 4 months back, further sending out strong signals when Obama met Cuban President Raul Castro at the Summit of the Americans in Panama last week, the first meeting of its kind in nearly 60 years. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
The United Nations Security Council has adopted a resolution to put an arms embargo on Yemen amid the ongoing crisis. The draft of the resolution imposed the embargo on Houthi rebels and called for the member countries to adopt necessary measures to prevent arms transporting and selling directly and indirectly to ex-President Saleh. The resolution also imposed sanctions including asset freezing and travel bans on the eldest son of the ex-president. Saudi Arabia, which is leading the airstrikes in Yemen, welcomed the UNSC decision. Saudi has intensified its offensive in Yemen, sending more ground and marine forces. Weeks of fighting between Houthi rebels and government forces have led to fuel shortages in Yemen.
刚刚通过第2216号决议，重申支持也门统一、主权、独立和领土完整，呼吁有关各方尽快就停火达成一致，明确要求也门各方通过协商对话和平解决分歧。
And now let's get you more international news updates in Global Buzz. Pakistan successfully test-launched the Gauri missile system. The Gauri ballistic missile can carry both conventional and nuclear warheads up to a distance of 1,300 kilometers. President Mamoon Hussain and Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif congratulated the strategic forces, scientists and engineers on the achievement. The United Nations is keen to launch a fresh round of peace talks for Syria. The UN's envoy to Syria said he plans to consult Syrian factions and interested countries on the new round of talks. The discussions are likely to start in May this year. Iran is likely to be invited for the talks, but the West claims the question of Tehran's participation remains unresolved. Iran's involvement is seen as indispensable since it is a major ally of Assad. German Foreign Minister Frank-Walter Steinmeier hosted the first of several meetings of the G7 foreign ministers in Lübeck today. The discussions at the summit are to focus on the ongoing nuclear dispute with Iran, as well as the crises in Ukraine and Yemen. Democratic presidential candidate in the US, Hillary Clinton, kicked off a campaign in Iowa on Tuesday. In her speech, she said that there were 4 areas she wanted to focus on as a presidential candidate: the economy, strengthening families and communities, fixing the political system, and securing the country against external threats. This was her first campaign stop since announcing her bid for presidency on Sunday. And that's all we could pack in on the news tonight. From the entire team here, good night.